Good evening.
Can send.
Yes, I'll check it. I'll check it. So, good evening, everyone. We are back with discussing, again, multiple questions on on company taxation specifically, but one moment. I'm sorry, I just forgot to put it on silent. Give me one moment. Okay. So, I thought that, we have finished a good chunk of questions from section B, specifically with respect to CGT IHT, because that does form a significant chunk of our ATX syllabus. And company taxation, again, is also a very important point in our discussion. A company taxation question will involve multiple issues, be it with respect to groups, be it with respect to losses, be it with respect to, some of the finer provisions like transfer pricing and all of that. Plus, you can always expect a question here and there about apna ye VAT also will be incorporated somewhere. No IHT in case of companies, luckily, but otherwise the discussion on company taxation is quite intense, so to say. Which is why I thought, let's do a proper section A question with all the possible adjustments and different expectations, and let's build on that. Okay. So this is a question Hahn Limited. It's a little older question. The reason why I'm picking up an older question is if you have noticed, जो नए questions है ना उनका उसका complexity कम है. So it I believe if we do the older questions which have say more number of adjustments, we end up revising more number of concepts in general. ठीक है. So let's start with that. ठीक है. I hope you can see my screen and we are here. You should assume that today's date is 1st of October. Respond to the instructions in the email from your manager. The split of mark allocation is shown in Exhibit 3. Please prepare a memorandum for the client files which addresses the following issues. Chargeable gain of freight limited. Calculate the additional amount which would need to be spent on assets qualifying for rollover such that the unrelieved gain would be fully covered by freight limited's brought forward capital loss. Relieving the trading loss of Freight Limited, prepare explanations together with supporting calculations to show how the trading loss of Freight Limited should be allocated between the companies in the group. The group's priority is its cash flow position and the need to minimize the corporation tax payable by installments. When preparing these calculations, you should assume that the whole of the chargeable gain of Frit Limited will be relieved by rollover. Prepare a schedule setting out the amounts of corporate tax payable by Hahn Limited and the companies it controls in respect of the year ending 31st of March 26, together with the related payment dates. You should assume that today's date is 1st of October 2025. I only want to focus on Exhibit 1 because that's the first thing they want us to talk about. Two things they want, chargeable gain and then relief of trading losses. Let's go one by one with respect to both. Okay. Your manager had a meeting with Helga, the finance director of Hahn Limited, and her brother Johannes. Both Hahn Limited and Johannes are clients of your firm. The work to be carried out is in respect of the availability of rollover relief within the Hahn Limited group, the relief for Frit Limited's trading loss within the group, due date for payment of corp tax by Hahn Limited group companies, group VAT registration issues, and the capital gains tax payable by Johannes and an explanation of his temporary non-UK resident status. There are some ethical issues that have been raised by your manager. The following exhibits provide information relevant to the question. ठीक है. Let's talk about the Han Limited group. Han Limited has Chad Limited, Frit Limited, Jolie Limited, Lease Limited, Stra Limited, 100, 100, 80, 100. So Chad, Frit, Lease, Stra and Han, they are part of a loss relief group, so to say. ठीक है. Now, Ruth Limited, Lease Limited and Ruth Limited form a loss relief group. Is Ruth Limited in group with Han Limited? Is it a part of the loss relief group or no? Is Ruth included in the main loss relief group, or yes or no? What do you think, Pinky?
No, actually, it's not 75%. No, no.
Right. All of the companies are UK resident trading companies with an accounting reference date of 31st of March. All of the companies are registered for purposes of VAT. With the exception of Chad Limited, all of the companies have been members of the Hahn Limited group for many years. Hahn Limited purchased Chad Limited from Zeno Limited on 1st of September. Prior to its disposal to Hahn Limited, Zeno had owned Chad and six other wholly owned subsidiaries for many years. Jolie Limited is not a consortium company. They have given you tax adjusted trading profits or losses. सो फ्रिट लिमिटेड में लॉस है 5,40,000 का. कैपिटल लॉस ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड है फ्रिट लिमिटेड में 31 का. ट्रेडिंग लॉस ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड है इन स्ट्रा लिमिटेड 48 का. Assets purchased which qualify for rollover 14, 6 and 10. The budgeted results include 94,000 sales made by Han Limited to Stra Limited. The arm's length price of these sales would be 1,04,000. Both of these figures are exclusive of VAT. No tax adjustments have been made in respect of these sales. The Han Limited Group is a large group for the purposes of transfer pricing rules. Frit Limited's chargeable gain will be in respect of the sale of a building to an unconnected third party for 1,25,000. The building is a qualifying business asset for the purposes of rollover relief. None of the companies will receive any dividend other than from associated companies in the year ending 31st of March 2026. Frit Limited will not be able to carry its loss back to the year ended 31 March 25. All of the companies with the exception of Frit and Stra were required to pay their corp tax liabilities for the year ended 31st of March 2025 by installments. ठीक है. ये वैट वाला पार्ट है, ये बाद में देखते हैं. Additional amount which would need to be spent on assets qualifying for rollover relief such that unrelieved gain would be fully covered by Frit Limited's brought forward capital loss. ठीक है. ये बड़ा ही इंटरेस्टिंग सा क्वेश्चन है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, व्हाट इज द सेल डन बाय फ्रिट लिमिटेड, वो चेक करो. व्हाट हैज फ्रिट लिमिटेड सोल्ड एंड टू हुम. ठीक है. फ्रिट लिमिटेड चार्जेबल गेन विल बी इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ अ सेल ऑफ बिल्डिंग टू एन अनकनेक्टेड थर्ड पार्टी फॉर 1,25,000. ठीक है. अब 1,25,000 इज द सेल प्रोसीड्स ऑफ फ्रिट लिमिटेड. द बिल्डिंग इज अ क्वालिफाइंग बिजनेस असेट फॉर पर्पसेस ऑफ रोल ओवर रिलीफ. नाउ इफ यू ऑब्जर्व व्हाट इज द क्वेश्चन, वो क्वेश्चन थोड़ा सा अलग तरीके से पूछा है आपको. ठीक है. सो प्लीज ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड कि exactly what is the requirement. Okay, now what does the question say? It says additional amount which needs to be spent on assets qualifying for rollover relief. See, in case of group companies, the rollover relief calculation is slightly different. See, rollover relief के लिए in case of group companies, you you can claim rollover relief for the assets that you have invested in, no doubt. But you can also claim rollover relief for the assets that have for qualifying business assets जिसमें group companies have made an investment. Right. Now, first of all, यहाँ पे फ्रिट लिमिटेड itself has made an investment of 14. ठीक है. Ruth has made an investment of 6 and Stra Limited has made an investment of 10. At the same time, Frit Limited has a brought forward capital loss of 31. ठीक है. Now, such that unrelieved gain would be fully covered by Frit Limited's brought forward capital loss. आपको ultimately क्या ensure करना है? Ultimately, what you have to ensure is that the entire amount is fully covered by Frit Limited's brought forward capital loss. Now, if you look at the structure here, what are the companies? Ruth Limited and Stra Limited. Ruth Limited, is it a part of the 75% gains group? Tell me. Hey, Ruth Limited, is it a part of the 75% gains group? No. But Frit Limited and Stra Limited are a part of the 75% gains group with Han Limited. So ये जो 6,000 का investment है in qualifying assets by Ruth Limited, this will not be considered. but 14 made by Frit Limited itself and 10 made by Stra Limited. Both of these are going to be considered. ठीक है. Now, first of all, you what we are supposed to do is कि यार ऐसा कुछ बताओ. Tell us how much more additional amount should be spent on assets qualifying for rollover relief such that unrelieved gain would be fully covered by Frit Limited's brought forward capital loss. Now, understand how you approach a question like this. First of all, let's write down part A. Part A1. ठीक है. This is for which company? This is for Frit Limited. ठीक है. For Frit Limited. Proceeds of disposal. How much? 1,25,000. ठीक है. Now, less brought forward capital loss. Allow me to complete the working, then you will understand why I am doing whatever it is that I am doing. ठीक है. माइनस कितना है? 31,000 है ना? हाँ. Minus 31,000. What is this number? This is, see, the idea is that if the proceeds of disposal are reinvested in qualifying assets, then you get a rollover relief. ठीक है. So this is amount that needs to be invested in qualifying asset. ठीक है. What is the amount that needs to be invested in qualifying assets? 94,000. ठीक है. Amount already invested by Frit Limited and other companies in the capital gains group. ठीक है. कितना होगा? Frit Limited by itself has invested 14. Stra Limited has invested 10. Frit Limited 14 plus Stra Limited 10,000. कितना? 24,000. So additional amount that needs to be invested. कितना होगा? Additional amount that needs to be invested is 94 minus 24. That is, if 70,000 more is invested in qualifying business assets, ठीक है. If 70,000 more is invested in qualifying business assets, उसके बाद if that happens, ये 24 जो already invested है plus ये 70,000 that you invest. After that, total investment in qualifying assets is 94,000. So the entire amount will qualify for rollover relief. And now after that, the remaining amount of gain would be fully covered by brought forward capital loss. Now rollover relief का think about the condition. Rollover relief में क्या है? Whatever are the proceeds of disposal, not the gain. Whatever are the proceeds of disposal, those proceeds of disposal, if all of that is invested in qualifying assets, then पूरा का पूरा gain gets rolled over. If all of the proceeds are not invested in capital assets, ठीक है. अब यहां पे देखो, amount of gain rolled over and amount of gain taxed now. ठीक है. Now if 94,000 out of 1,25,000 is invested, ठीक है, then the remaining gain will be taxed now. But जो भी remaining gain होगा, that will be covered by the brought forward capital loss. So when you invest 94,000 in qualifying assets, that means जो remaining gain है, that remaining gain can be covered by the brought forward capital loss. So additional amount that needs to be spent is 70,000. ठीक है. So 31,000 should not be reinvested. 31,000 को reinvest मत करो. अच्छा, गेन कितना हुआ है? बाय द वे, ये कंपनी को गेन हुआ है 65,000 है ना. Chargeable gain is 65,000. In order for the chargeable gain after rollover relief to be equal to the capital loss brought forward, an amount of 31,000 should not be reinvested, है ना? Because 65,000 का आपका gain है, right? 65,000 का gain is the total capital gain when an asset worth 1,25,000 is sold. So in that case, आप पहले री इन्वेस्ट करो इन क्वालिफाइंग बिजनेस असेट्स. आपने 94,000 इन्वेस्ट कर दिया जो भी. ओके, सो अंडरस्टैंड वन थिंग. When 94,000 is invested in qualifying business assets, तो क्या होगा? When 94,000 is invested in qualifying business assets, amount taxed right now is lower of amount of gain or proceeds not reinvested. Amount of gain is 65,000. Proceeds not reinvested are 1,25,000 minus 94,000. कितना बचेगा? 31,000. So 31,000 out of total gain of 65,000 will be taxed right now. ठीक है, 31,000 out of total gain of 65,000 will be taxed right now. But we have brought forward capital loss of how much? We have brought forward capital loss of 31,000, which will be set off against this capital gain, and at the end, amount of CGT payable will be, amount of gain will be zero. Amount of chargeable gain will be zero. ठीक है, दिस इज पार्ट A1. थोड़ा अलग है, बट थोड़ा इफ यू अप्लाई योर माइंड आपको समझ में आएगा हाउ ऑल ऑफ दिस कोरिलेट्स. अनदर पॉइंट, ये कौन सा कंपनी था 6,000 वाला? रूथ लिमिटेड. रूथ लिमिटेड इज not a part of the gains group. So, amount invested in qualifying assets by Ruth Limited, 6,000 will not be considered. ठीक है? Are you with me, both of you? अक्षय, पिंकी? ओके. 3 मार्क्स का था, 3 या 4 मार्क का था, बट दिमाग लगाना है इस क्वेश्चन में. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट. प्रिपेयर
So
एक्सप्लेनेशन.
actually, I have one question.
या टेल.
The 65,000 we have taken amount of gain, that is already was is gain on something else, right?
Is it? Is it gain on something else or is it just that same capital gain है ना?
It is
और
given it and down is 125.
125 is sale proceeds ना?
Yeah, sales proceed. Lower of the amount is not invested and chargeable gain.
See, this is Fritz chargeable gain. Fritz chargeable gain कौन सा है? Fritz का chargeable gain 65 will be in respect of a sale of building to an unconnected third party.
Okay, okay, got it included. Got it, got it. Thank you.
वो नहीं, but it's that question is valid because बहुत minute आपको observe करना पड़ेगा in the question.
Actually, so this is where I got get wrong in the exam. हमेशा वाला minor thing.
वो बहुत बार क्या होता है ना कि वी हरी थ्रू थिंग्स बिकॉज वी हैव दैट प्रेशर कि पेपर खत्म करना है, पेपर खत्म करना है. बट व्हेन यू लुक एट दीज पॉइंट्स यू विल स्टार्ट गेनिंग ऑल द फाइनर न्यूआंसेस एंड यू विल गेट दोज मार्क्स. ठीक है. नाउ, relieving the trading loss of freight. Prepare explanations together with supporting calculations to show how the trading loss of Freight Limited should be allocated between the companies in the group. The group's priority is its cash flow position and the need to minimize the corporation tax payable by installments. While preparing these calculations, you should assume that whole of the chargeable gain of Freight will be relieved through rollover relief. Prepare a schedule setting out the amount of corporate tax payable by Hahn Limited and the companies it controls, that is not Jolie Limited, in respect of the year ending 31st of March 26 together with related payment dates. ये second part है. First of all, let's try to talk about the adjustment. है ना? Now, how do we go about it? How do we go about the allocation of loss? ये देखो, Frit Limited has a loss of 540, correct? That 540 का loss can be surrendered to which all companies in the group? हान लिमिटेड, चैड लिमिटेड, जोली तो नहीं कर सकते, जोली इज आउट, 30% है. लीस लिमिटेड है, रूथ लिमिटेड, रूथ लिमिटेड को भी नहीं कर सकते, इट इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द 75% ग्रुप. सो हान है, चार्ड है, लीस है एंड स्ट्रा लिमिटेड है. ठीक है, दीज आर द कंपनीज. नाउ द टैक्सेबल टोटल प्रॉफिट ऑफ, अच्छा, you also have to understand one thing, huh? What is that? See, ये adjustment तो करना है, no doubt, but the priority is its cash flow position and the need to minimize the corporate tax payable by installments. Do you remember when exactly is corporate tax supposed to be paid in installments? कुछ याद है आपको? We have that threshold limit divided by number of companies in the group. याद आ रहा है? Anything? थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट्स है? नहीं? Okay, let me show it to you. Now, the idea behind payment of tax and installments in case of companies is, do you remember that large company वाला discussion? Large company, small company, उसमें threshold limits, 1.5 million का threshold limit है. याद करने का कोशिश करो. पिंकी, डू यू रिमेम्बर? अक्षय, थोड़ा सा आठवां.
Yes, sir.
टेक अ मोमेंट, टेक अ मोमेंट, गो बैक, सी इफ यू कैन फाइंड इट एनीवेयर. मतलब ऑफ कोर्स नोट्स में तो है ही अपना, बट दिस इज नॉट अ टॉपिक दैट ऐसा आपको याद आना थोड़ा मुश्किल हो सकता है. आई विल गिव यू अ मिनट टू रिकलेक्ट. Now, let me take you back to the concept of, I'm making some notes here. ठीक है. Now, when should a company pay tax and installments? It is a large company which is required to pay tax and installments, right? So, a large company is required to pay tax in installments. What is a large company? A company whose augmented profits exceed the 1.5 million pounds का threshold. ठीक है. A company whose augmented profits exceed 1.5 million pounds threshold, है ना? बट इफ देर आर अदर कंपनीज इन द ग्रुप, ठीक है, अगर एसोसिएटेड कंपनीज है तो दिस 1 लाख, सॉरी 15 मिलियन, 15 लाख या 1.5 मिलियन का जो लिमिट है, दैट लिमिट गेट स्प्लिट, है ना? वो लिमिट आपका कम हो जाता है इफ देर आर एसोसिएटेड कंपनीज. नाउ ये जो 1.5 मिलियन का थ्रेशोल्ड है, इफ यू आर अ लार्ज कंपनी द लाइबिलिटी इज सेटल्ड थ्रू क्वार्टरली इंस्टॉलमेंट पेमेंट्स. आपको याद होगा तो 7, 10, 13 ऐसा आपको पे करना पड़ता है, राइट? क्वार्टरली पेमेंट इज इन 7, 10, 13th एंड 16th मंथ फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट ऑफ द पीरियड. 14th डे को पेमेंट करना पड़ता है. दैट इज क्वार्टरली इंस्टॉलमेंट ऑप्शन फॉर, नॉट ऑप्शन, क्वार्टरली इंस्टॉलमेंट पेमेंट फॉर लार्ज कंपनीज. नाउ if there are associated companies, the limit gets reduced, है ना? Now, what are these associated companies? Let's try to think of that. Which companies do you think will come in this situation? Associated companies में कौन आएगा देखिए. This is Han Limited. ठीक है. Han Limited is the main holding company, Chad, Freight, Lee, Stra, these are all in the group. Which companies out of these do you think should be included in our associated companies वाला calculation? बताइए. Hahn itself, Frit, Lease, Ruth and Stra, right? All companies in which it has a more than 51% holding, all of those companies are considered as associated companies. है ना? So, in this case, Hahn, Frit, then Chad, Lease and Stra. Chad, Lease and Stra. All are associated companies. So, the threshold will reduce to 1.5 million upon 5, which is 3 lakh. ठीक है. So if profit of any company, or rather if augmented profit of any company exceeds 3 lakh, it has to pay tax in installments. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे what they have said is that their focus is the cash flow position and the need to minimize the corporate tax payable in installments. ठीक है. अब इसका लॉस है 5,40,000. ठीक है. इफ इट वांट्स टू, जोली एंड रूथ के साथ तो एडजस्ट नहीं कर सकते. स्ट्रा लिमिटेड इज ऑलरेडी बिलो मतलब बिलो 3,58,000 है. तो स्ट्रा लिमिटेड इज ऑलरेडी नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू मेक पेमेंट इन इंस्टॉलमेंट, तो डोंट प्रायोरिटाइज दैट फॉर एडजस्टमेंट ऑफ लॉसेस. हान लिमिटेड्स प्रॉफिट इज ऑल्सो 2,80,000, सो डोंट कंसिडर दैट ऑल्सो एज द फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी फॉर एडजस्टमेंट ऑफ लॉसेस. ठीक है. Stra Limited has a profit of 58,000 and Chad Limited has a profit of 2,80,000. Both are below the revised threshold of 3 lakh. ठीक है. Both are below the revised threshold of 3 lakh. So don't prioritize these companies for surrender of losses, as the objective is to first get rid of installment payments for companies. ठीक है. अब उसके बाद देखो, इसका लॉस है 675. डोंट एडजस्ट इट ऑल अगेंस्ट लीज लिमिटेड. लीज लिमिटेड के अगेंस्ट यू कैन एडजस्ट. नाउ वी हैव रियलाइज दैट दिस इज नॉट आवर फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी फॉर एडजस्टमेंट. स्ट्रा लिमिटेड इजंट एंड अच्छा, नॉट चैडा, हान लिमिटेड इज ऑल्सो नॉट अ प्रायोरिटी, राइट? Han Limited is also not a priority. So adjust against profits of which company? Adjust against profits of Lease Limited. But don't adjust all the loss. We should adjust 75,000 so that taxable profit goes to 3 lakh, which is the threshold, and Lease Limited is not required to pay in installments. ठीक है. अब आपने क्या किया? You adjusted a big chunk of losses here. ठीक है, पार्ट ए टू. ठीक है. सो आउट ऑफ total loss of 5,40,000, we adjusted 75,000 against lease limited. ठीक है. Loss left to be adjusted is 5,40,000 minus 75,000. कितना होगा बताओ? बताओ. 540 minus 75. 4,65,000. ठीक है. 4,65,000 इज येट टू बी एडजस्टेड. लीज के अगेंस्ट एडजस्ट कर लिया. बचा कौन? चैड. नाउ except for Chad, all of the companies have been members of the Han Limited group for many years. Han Limited purchased Chad from Zeno Limited on 1st of September 2005. Prior to its disposal to Han Limited, Zeno had owned Chad and six other wholly owned subsidiary for many years. अब Chad Limited was not a part of the group always. Huh? Chad Limited became a part of the group this year. So threshold for Chad Limited is going to be different. Why? Because Chad Limited was a part of a group which had a total of 8 companies in the group. तो उस group के लिए threshold is going to be 15 lakh divided by 8 in the Zeno Limited group, right? So let's write that down. Chad Limited became a part of Hahn Limited Group during the year on 1st of September 2025. Till that date, it was part of Zeno Limited Group, which had 8 companies. Okay, so threshold for Chad Limited is 1.5 million divided by 8. How much do you think is that? 1.5 million is 15 lakh divided by 8. I think it is somewhere around 1,87,500. ये दूसरे ग्रुप का हिस्सा था, right? 187,500. Now, Chad Limited will not be required to pay in installments if the profit falls below 187,500. Correct? Ab, to reach that number, what should we do? See, Chad Limited was a member of another group for how many months? Sorry, not Jan, April, May, June, July, August. 5 months, है ना? And then it was a part of first it was a part of Zeno Limited Group. Then it became a part of the Han Limited Group, right? Now, Shad Limited became a part of Han Group on, एक बार ना, let me just confirm the date. September ही है ना? हाँ, on 1st of September 2025. On 1st of September 2025. So profits of Chad Limited available for surrender will be the lower of two numbers, है ना? Profit of Frit Limited, sorry, profit of Chad Limited for 7 months. ठीक है. प्रॉफिट ऑफ चैड लिमिटेड फॉर 7 मंथ्स। कैसे होगा? चैड लिमिटेड का टोटल प्रॉफिट है 6,75,000, है ना? सो 6,75,000 इंटू 7/12। टेल मी हाउ मच इज इट? 393,750। या फिर लॉस ऑफ फ्रिट लिमिटेड फॉर द सेम 7 मंथ्स ना, आपको कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग पीरियड का कैलकुलेशन करना पड़ेगा फॉर 7 मंथ्स। फ्रिट का लॉस कितना है? फ्रिट का लॉस है 5,40,000, करेक्ट? सो 5,40,000 इंटू 7/12। टेल मी हाउ मच इज इट? 3,15,000। So the lower of the two will be surrendered. What is the lower of the two? 3,15,000 is the lower of the two. Now, what happens is Frit Limited will surrender 3,15,000 to Chad Limited, and after adjustment, the profit is 6 lakh कितना? और 6,75,000 minus 3,15,000. Tell me how much is left? कितना बचा है? It will be, I think, 3,60,000, है ना? Yes. So profit of Shad Limited has not been, has still not been reduced, has still not been reduced enough to get rid of installment payments। 187 पे आएगा तभी जाके यू विल बी एबल टू डू दैट। अब ये देखो, स्ट्रा लिमिटेड हैज अ लॉस ऑफ 48,000। कैन यू एडजस्ट दैट अगेंस्ट चैड लिमिटेड? What do you think? Can that be adjusted? It seems that it can be adjusted. See if there is any other information given to you. एक बार देखो। This is trading loss brought forward. Can trading loss brought forward be surrendered? ये करंट ईयर का ट्रेडिंग लॉस नहीं है, ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड ट्रेडिंग लॉस है। विल यू बी एबल टू डू दैट? Brought forward trading loss, you will have to adjust against your own, है ना? Anything else that you can think of here? This pretty much seems like it, na? And then the remaining should be surrendered to, it could be surrendered to Han Limited। उसको भी आप सरेंडर कर सकते हो, सो नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम। फ्रिट कैन सरेंडर टू हान। उसके बाद यू कैन सरेंडर इन एनी ऑर्डर। यू ट्राई टू एडजस्ट मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल अगेंस्ट चैड। वो करने के बाद देर इज नो अदर कंपनी लेफ्ट जिसका आपको इंस्टॉलमेंट वाला सिस्टम यू वांट टू गेट रिड ऑफ, तो देन यू कैन एडजस्ट इट अगेंस्ट एनी अदर कंपनी। मेक सेंस? चेक करो इफ देर इज एनी इंफॉर्मेशन दैट वी हैव मिस्ड आउट। हान लिमिटेड ग्रुप इज कंसिडरिंग, यहाँ पे देखो कुछ छूटा है क्या? Frit will not be able to carry its loss back. Okay. All companies with the exception of Frit and Stra were required to pay in installments. Han Limited Group is considering getting registered for VAT. मुझे तो कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है। Right now I can't see anything. If something comes up later, I will of course have to deliberate upon that. है ना? ये देखो, budgeted results include 94,000 sales made by Han to Stra, The arm's length price of these sales would be 1,04,000. Both of these figures are exclusive of VAT. No tax adjustments have been made in respect of these sales. Han Limited sold something to Stra Limited. ठीक है, for 94,000, but arm's length price is 1,04,000. Do you think this invites a transfer pricing adjustment? What do you think? Now, if these are related companies, there is always a concern that the transactions between them are not at arm's length. If the transactions between the two companies are not at arm's length, then a transfer pricing adjustment will be necessitated. कितने का होगा transfer pricing adjustment? Transfer pricing adjustment will be for 10,000 in this case. Right. So trading profit of Han Limited will be increased by 10,000, which is the difference between the two. एक आएगा आपका यहाँ पे transfer pricing adjustment. Sale by Han Limited to Stra Limited, not at arm's length price. Difference to be adjusted by increasing the trading profit of Han Limited by 10,000. 1,04,000 arm's length price minus 94,000 actual selling price. ठीक है? So that number will get adjusted. Then, so abhi, instead of 280, the profit will be 290 and then it will be surrendered there. The loss can be surrendered. Up to a certain extent, you will be able to then reduce the further tax liability. Okay? Are you with me? Okay. Now, आपका loss allocation तो हो गया है ना. And see, in this question, that installment wala thing was very important. Huh? Also understand one thing. If you look at the list of the group companies, मैंने कौन सा लिखा है associated companies के list में? Han, Frit, Chad, Lees and Stra, है ना. But you have to understand that which companies should be included and which companies should be excluded. यहाँ पे देखो, Chad Limited became a part of the company during the year, so you should not include. You have to be careful in terms of which company to include and which company to exclude. अब associated companies के list में Chad Limited will not come. So what I have written here is not completely right. ठीक है, ये जो मैंने यहाँ पे चैड लिमिटेड लिखा है, चैड लिमिटेड कैन नॉट बी इंक्लूडेड हियर. अनदर कंपनी विल बी इंक्लूडेड बट चैड लिमिटेड विल नॉट बी इंक्लूडेड. वाई सो? क्यों नहीं इंक्लूड करेंगे चैड लिमिटेड को? बिकॉज व्हेन यू डू दैट कैलकुलेशन ना, यू आर यूजुअली नहीं, यू शुड कंसिडर कंपनीज दैट वर अ पार्ट ऑफ द ग्रुप एट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द ईयर. ठीक है. If a certain company was a part of the group at the end of the previous accounting period, that company should be considered. ठीक है, यहाँ पे I'm giving you a note. Shad Limited should not be considered an associate company for these calculations, as we ought to consider only those companies which were a part of the which were only those companies in which shareholding was more than 51% at the end of the previous accounting period. ठीक है. So Chad Limited should not be considered. But अगर आप देखो here, Ruth Limited, although it is not a part of the लॉस रिलीफ ग्रुप, रूथ लिमिटेड विल बी कंसिडर्ड एन एसोसिएट कंपनी बिकॉज इसका इफेक्टिव होल्डिंग इज मोर देन 51% ना। रूथ लिमिटेड विल बी कंसिडर्ड इन द ग्रुप, तो वो लिखते हैं। रूथ लिमिटेड विल बी considered an associate company for calculation of threshold limit as effective holding in Ruth Limited was or is 56%, 70% into 80%, which is more than 51%. ठीक है, Ruth Limited will be considered an associate company for calculation of threshold limit as effective holding is more than 51%. Although it although we must remember that Ruth Limited is not a part of loss relief group. ठीक है, रूथ लिमिटेड इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ लॉस रिलीफ ग्रुप, ठीक है, बट इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ, मतलब इट इज एन एसोसिएट कंपनी। तो बहुत ही फाइन पॉइंट है ये, ठीक है। आई एम गोइंग टू से इंक्लूड रूथ लिमिटेड, ठीक है, बी अ लिटिल केयरफुल हियर, इंक्लूड रूथ लिमिटेड। दिस क्वेश्चन इज वेरी, मतलब इट्स अ पर्टिनेंट क्वेश्चन बिकॉज इसमें ना बहुत सारे प्रोविजंस अपने कवर हो रहे हैं। ऑलमोस्ट पूरा का पूरा ग्रुप रिलीफ, एसोसिएट कंपनीज, एवरीथिंग इज गेटिंग रिवाइज्ड, प्लस पेमेंट बाय इंस्टॉलमेंट, सारा कुछ आप यहाँ पे कंसिडर कर रहे हो, राइट? सो वेरी वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव, डू यू अग्री? अब जाके ये पार्ट खत्म हुआ। Now, prepare a schedule setting out the amount of corp tax payable by Hahn Limited and the companies it controls in respect of the year ending 31st of March 26 together with related payment dates. तो कौन सा कंपनियों का? हान, चैड, लीस, रूथ, ठीक है। सो कैलकुलेशन ऑफ taxable income and tax particulars: Hahn Limited, Shard Limited, Lease Limited, Ruth Limited, ठीक है। फ्रिट एंड स्ट्रा के पास कोई टैक्सेबल प्रॉफिट नहीं है, सो नो कॉर्प टैक्स लाइबिलिटी, ठीक है। यहाँ पे वील हैव टैक्सेबल टोटल प्रॉफिट, कितना है इसका? टैक्सेबल टोटल प्रॉफिट लिखो पहले, 2,80,000, चैड लिमिटेड का 675, 2,80,000, 6,75,000, देन लीस लिमिटेड का, फ्रिट का तो लॉस है, लीस का 375, रूथ का 320। Why is Ruth Limited included here? Because the question says calculate taxable income and tax for companies which are controlled by it. ये नहीं बोला है कि companies which are a part of the gains group उसको करो. They are saying companies which are controlled by this company, उन सबका taxable income calculate करो, right? Okay. Now हो गया आपका taxable total profit। उसके बाद लेट्स एक तो ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग एडजस्टमेंट करो, एड ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग एडजस्टमेंट, ठीक है। उसके बाद यू हैव टू डू द ग्रुप रिलीफ वाला लॉस रिलीफ आपको लगाना है, ठीक है। लेस लॉस रिलीफ ग्रुप्स, ठीक है। What did you decide? You decided to adjust 75,000 in lease limited. You decided to adjust 3,15,000 here and ये कितना हो गया? 3,90,000। रिमेनिंग अमाउंट यू डिसाइडेड टू एडजस्ट हियर, है ना? हो गया आपका 5,40,000 का एलोकेशन। रूथ लिमिटेड में तो आप एनीवे एडजस्ट नहीं कर सकते। ठीक है। उसके बाद क्या आएगा आपके पास? यू विल गेट, ठीक है, अब कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स, what will be the tax rate here? It will be 25%. Do you agree? Upper limit is what? आपका जो लोअर लिमिट है वो 50 है, अपर लिमिट है वो 250 है, बट इट विल गेट डिवाइडेड हियर, है ना? 2,50,000 डिवाइडेड बाय 6, तो 41 समथिंग आएगा आपका। सो योर प्रॉफिट्स आर एनी वे अबव दैट, सो दिस इंटू 25%। ठीक है। एंड out of this, 90 will be payable in installment, 80 will be payable in installment, 350 will be payable in January। ये दोनों payable in Jan, not in installments। ठीक है। And this is payable in installments। ठीक है। Are you with me? अब जाके आपका क्वेश्चन एक्चुअली कंप्लीट हुआ। मेक सेंस? क्वाइट एक्सटेंसिव। देन यू, आप पेमेंट्स के डेट वेट बता दो फिर, कोई उसमें वो आप कर सकते हो। दिस वॉज फॉर अ गुड 19 मार्क्स, सो 19 प्लस 3 22। ठीक है। देन दैट्स ग्रुप रिलीफ एंड, हाँ मतलब ग्रुप्स पे ही आपका 22 मार्क्स का आ गया। नाउ ग्रुप रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर पर्पसेस ऑफ वैट, by reference to the specific information in my memorandum only, set out the matters which will need to be considered before deciding whether the companies should be included in a group registration. Hahn Limited Group is considering registering as a VAT group. Frit Limited makes some exempt supplies such that it is a partially exempt company. The other six companies all make standard rated supplies only. Stra Limited uses both annual accounting scheme and cash accounting scheme. On 1st of September 2025, Chad Limited received a refund of VAT from HMRC. The company has not been able to identify the reason for this refund. Now, first part of the question, points that should be considered before matters to be considered while doing group VAT registration. What do you think? Now, group registration could be made for all companies except Jolie Limited. Why? Because Jolie Limited is not controlled by Han Limited. So, it is not compulsory to include all the qualifying companies. ठीक है। Sale from one company to another would be disregarded for purposes of VAT. No requirement to charge VAT on sales made by Han Limited to Stra. Companies which become a part of group VAT registration, they cannot go for cash account, they cannot go for the annual accounting scheme. Cash accounting scheme is available only if the group's taxable turnover is less than 1350। ठीक है। अह एक और क्या होगा यहाँ पे पॉइंट देखो आप, Frit Limited makes some exempt supplies. If you include Frit Limited in the group, your ITC input tax credit will reduce because there is one company which still makes exempt supplies. तो थोड़ा सा आप, one part of the group will become partially exempt. So you will have to be careful when you are considering that part also, है ना? So these are the points to be considered. Let's write these down. Part B, matters to be considered before group VAT registration is done. ठीक है, which are these matters? All companies except Jolie Limited can join the group, as Jolie Limited is not controlled by Hahn. ठीक है, then not compulsory for all qualifying companies to join the group. ठीक है, sales from one company to another within the VAT group is exempt from VAT, है ना, is disregarded, is disregarded for VAT purpose. Then what else? Companies who join the VAT group, इनके लिए what is not available? Annual accounting scheme is not available, है ना. Frit Limited makes some exempt supplies. So if it joins the group will become partially exempt. ठीक है, आर यू विथ मी? ठीक है, आपको ऑफ कोर्स इस पे एक्सपांड करना है. देन चैड लिमिटेड हैज अ वैट रिफंड. Prepare a summary of actions which we should take and any matters of which Chad Limited should be aware in respect of the refund of VAT. अब ये एथिक्स वाला क्वेश्चन है, ठीक है. कंपनी को रिफंड तो मिल गया, है ना. कंपनी गॉट द रिफंड, बट दे डोंट नो फॉर व्हाट वाज दिस रिफंड गिवन टू देम. उनको पता ही नहीं है कि ये रिफंड क्यों मिला है ना. सो द एथिकल implications of this will have to be tackled. What do you think should be kept in mind? If we are unable to find a valid reason, we'll end up concluding that this was because of a mistake of HMRC. There was an error at the end of HMRC, so you should contact HMRC and you should repay the amount to HMRC immediately. ठीक है. If you are the advisor, you should inform Chad Limited that failing to return the money could be a civil or a criminal offense, है ना. और you should tell Chad Limited कि भाई HMRC को inform करो and pay the amount back to HMRC. Now if Chad Limited says नहीं यार रख लेते हैं पैसा, if Chad Limited is unwilling to return the money, we should consider कि भाई we don't want to continue as advisors for this company, and then we'll have to notify the tax authorities that we are no longer acting for Chad Limited. Again, we are not required to give them the reason because for confidentiality and all of these issues might come up. It is not necessary to make a report for money laundering. वो सब करने का जरूरत नहीं है. But just step down from the engagement and tell HMRC कि नहीं भाई ये company, we are not going to act as advisors for this company in the future. That pretty much closes the discussion. ठीक है. अब एक लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन करना है. Last part of the question is CGT, an explanation with supporting calculations of UK capital gains tax liability in respect of disposals made by Johannes while living in the country of Kerinia. Your explanation should include precise reasons for Johannes being regarded as only temporarily non-UK resident and a statement of when the tax will be payable. ठीक है. This is Exhibit 2. इसमें CGT का पार्ट है. I'll give you 5 minutes. Please read it carefully. Take your time and then we'll discuss it together. ठीक है? Please start. You see, each section A question takes like a good chunk of time. So, and if we need that much time, you will also need to spend that kind of time on such questions in the paper. ठीक है? इसको देखो अभी. Second, मतलब last part. Extracts from memorandum prepared by your manager dated 1st of October 2025. Johannes had lived in the UK for the whole of his life until he moved with his wife to the country of Kenya on 1st of Jan 22. He returned to live permanently in the UK on 30th April 2025. While living in Kenya, John was non-UK resident and he is now resident in the UK. He has always been domiciled in the UK. Johannes has significant investment income and has been a higher rate taxpayer for many years. While living in the country of Kenya, Johannes sold various assets as set out below. He has not made any disposals since 5th of April 2021. Quoted shares, date of sale, painting 1st of June 24, ये 1st of June 1st of December 21, antique bed and car. उसका date of purchase भी आपको दिया है. I explained that although Johannes was non-UK resident, these disposals will still be subject to tax as he will be regarded as temporarily non-UK resident. There is no capital gains tax in the country of Kenya. Now, for or the Johannes thing. See, a person will be regarded as temporarily non-resident, non-UK resident because he was absent from UK for less than 5 years and he lived in the UK before moving to Kenya. He was resident in UK for at least for at least 4 out of the 7 tax years immediately prior to his departure. Okay, so let's talk about part C. Okay, so Johannes will be considered as temporarily non-resident in the UK because he was out of the United Kingdom for less than 5 years. ठीक है. Then before moving to Kenya, he was a resident in the UK for how many years? For at least 4 out of the 7 preceding tax years. ठीक है. And 7 preceding tax years immediately prior to date of his departure from the UK. ठीक है. अब assets that he owned while leaving the UK will be subjected to tax if he sold them while he was outside the UK. ठीक है. Assets that he owned while leaving the UK will be subjected to CGT if they were sold during the period of temporary residence abroad. ठीक है. अब क्या क्या इंक्लूड होगा और क्या क्या एक्सक्लूड होगा देखो तो. व्हेन डिड ही लीव द यूके? ही लेफ्ट द यूके ऑन 1st of Jan 22 and he came back on 30th of April 25. Is there an asset that he did not own on the date of his departure from the UK? He did not own the sorry, he owned the quoted shares, he owned the painting, he owned the car. Did he? Date of purchase of the car was 1st of Feb 22. He went there on 1st of Jan 22. ठीक है. अब see, car is sold on 1st of April 25, purchased on 1st of this 22 plus car तो CGT लगता भी नहीं है, so car is out. They are exempt for purposes of CGT. This asset was purchased on 1st of May 22, antique bed. It was purchased after he left the UK. So this asset ka disposal will not be taxed as a part of the temporary residence abroad clause. But quoted shares and painting, he owned both of these assets before leaving the UK. करेक्ट, एंड ही सोल्ड दोज असेट्स व्हाइल ही वाज अवे फ्रॉम द यूके, है ना? तो इसका कैपिटल गेन विल बिकम टैक्सेबल. कार्स आर एग्जेम्प्ट फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ सीजीटी. ठीक है. देन antique bed was acquired after he left the UK and was disposed of during his temporary residence abroad. So it will not be taxable on his return to the UK. ठीक है. But quoted shares and painting will be taxable. Quoted shares and painting will be taxable. ठीक है. तो आपका कैपिटल गेन कैसे आएगा? कैपिटल गेन विल बी 36 माइनस 15, 18,900 माइनस 16,000, है ना? दो कैपिटल गेन आएगा आपका. बट व्हेन वाज दिस सोल्ड? दिस वाज सोल्ड ऑन 1st of December 21. Quoted shares were sold on 1st of December 21. ठीक है. सो इट इज टैक्स ईयर 21-22. टैक्स ईयर 2021-22. सेल प्रोसीड्स कितना होगा? 18,900. देन लेस cost of acquisition 16,000. I can say that gain is fully covered by annual exempt amount. ठीक है. अब this was sold on 1st of June 24, tax year 24-25. Painting. 1st of April नहीं, क्या डेट है? 1st of June 24.36 माइनस 15 less AEA minus 3,000. What is our taxable gain? 21 minus 3, 18,000. And CGT at the rate of 20%. This into 20%. So this was a question more suited for, temporary residence abroad wala jo clause hai. This question was more oriented towards that. Now, if you observe, ये क्वेश्चन करने में ही अपने को मोर देन 1.5 hour almost, या लिटिल अराउंड दैट वी रिक्वायर्ड, राइट? इन सच क्वेश्चंस, सी अभी तक we had section B questions, so उसमें there are very localized issues that you tackle, but in questions like these there are multiple issues. यहाँ पे आप देखो ना, हमने क्या क्या डील किया. रोल ओवर रिलीफ देखा, ग्रुप रिलीफ देखा. ग्रुप रिलीफ में बहुत सारा माइन्यूट माइन्यूट कैलकुलेशंस वी सॉ. वी वेंट बैक टू पेमेंट इन इंस्टॉलमेंट्स, करेक्ट. देन वी कैलकुलेटेड टैक्स पेएबल. वी लुक्ड एट सीजीटी रिलीफ. देन वी डिड ग्रुप वाइड रजिस्ट्रेशन. देन एक एथिक्स वाला पार्ट किया. फिर यहाँ पे हमने इंडिविजुअल का टेम्पररी रेसिडेंस अब्रॉड देखा. तो इट्स लाइक डूइंग अ फुल फ्लेजेड टूर ऑफ मल्टीपल थिंग्स इन मेनी मेनी आइटम्स इन योर एटीएक्स सिलेबस, राइट? तो सेक्शन ए क्वेश्चंस का ना यही स्पेशलिटी है कि दीज क्वेश्चंस विल हैव मेनी टॉपिक्स एट द सेम टाइम, विच मींस आपको पूरा अलर्ट रहना पड़ेगा व्हेन यू आर अप्रोचिंग दीज क्वेश्चंस. नाउ We have done one question today, which of course took a sizable amount of our time. Now, my advice to you at this point would be कि आज हमने जो जो questions देखे ना, whatever questions we saw today, why don't you do one thing that जो भी उसमें concepts थे, group relief हो गया, then पेमेंट एंड इंस्टॉलमेंट हो गया जो आपको याद नहीं आ रहा था, जो भी इश्यूज थे, why don't you open the notes and why don't you go through all of that once again so that it will serve as a good enough revision for you. ठीक है. So this Han Limited question, in my opinion, was quite a roundabout in all of your ATX. Tomorrow, let's pick up a question called वेवरली लिमिटेड एंड सेट लिमिटेड. हान लिमिटेड के बाद वाला क्वेश्चन है. अगेन इट कवर्स मल्टीपल कॉन्सेप्ट्स इन योर एटीएक्स सिलेबस. बट बिफोर कमिंग फॉर टुमारोज सेशन, प्लीज रिवाइज दिस क्वेश्चन एंड कम. एंड व्हेन आई से रिवाइज, डोंट रीडू द क्वेश्चन और जस्ट गो थ्रू इट, बट उसके जो रिलेटेड प्रोविजंस है ना, वो एक बार देख के आना है. उतना करेंगे कल के पहले. ठीक है.